Hi, hola, ciao, cześć. When building a mobile app, especially if it's just a side project, it's very common to leave the translation process until the very last moment before the release. And I often hear from other developers and clients that it's tedious to add translations into your existing Flutter apps and that there's no common way to manage translations in Flutter. And in this video, I want to debunk this statement and show you that actually you can easily and conveniently add translations into your Flutter apps. Let's get started. Let's talk a bit about internationalization and localization in your Flutter apps, because these terms are very similar but have slightly different meanings. When we talk about internationalization, we usually mean making the app universal across the many languages and countries. The app should be accessible to anyone, no matter what language they use. You can switch between languages without losing any content or features. Localization, however, is a bit more specific. When you localize your app, you actually want to customize it for a given market. For instance, there can be some differences in layout or available settings in your app depending on the locale. Locale of the app describes what kind of language, formatting options, or direction of text should be used. As you may know, there may be different locales for the same language. For instance, English is a bit different in Australia than in the United Kingdom. In Flutter, you get support out of the box for almost 80 languages by just adding a package and few lines of code. First, let's add a required package called Flutter Localizations. After you added Flutter Localizations package into your pubspec.yaml, go to your Material app and provide the built-in localization delegates. You should also specify what locales your app can support. With this package, you get support for all the built-in terms like back or cancel and features like datetime picker or correct direction of the text for a given locale. Of course, when translating your app, you can always provide your custom terms to be used. Since Flutter 1.22, there is a new, more convenient way to manage translations in your Flutter app. No more manual generation of localization delegates and Dart translation classes. Now, you just need to provide correct ARB files and Flutter will handle most of the tedious work for you. Before we dive in, let's understand what ARB files are. These files allow you to specify translations for a given language. The syntax is very similar to JSON and allows both for simple and a bit more sophisticated usage. To add a new term, you just provide a new entry in the file. It consists of a name, value, and optional description. You can also add parameterized messages with placeholders that will be replaced with the provided input or define different forms depending on the plural form. In Polish, for instance, there are usually 3 different spellings depending on the number of items. To learn more about the possibilities of ARB files, check the document linked below. To start localizing your app, firstly add the intl package. After that, specify the generate flag under Flutter section in pubspec.yaml. It will tell the Flutter tool to recreate the localization classes on each pub-get. Next step is to add the special alt.n.yaml file with the configuration for the localization tool used by Flutter. Tell Flutter where you keep the ARB files, which one of them is a template file, and where the generated classes should be stored. After that, add your first ARB file with some basic terms. This will be our template file, and Flutter will use it to determine the set of translation terms to be used in the app. Next step is to add ARB file for a desired language. Flutter will create necessary localization classes in Dart tool directory as soon as you call Flutter packages.get or build the app. Here we have our Material app, which is an entry point to our application. Let's add necessary localization delegates and supported locales. For the first time, you'll need to add this import manually. I think this is a bug in Flutter. Now, you should be able to insert the first translated term anywhere in the widget tree you want. My personal recommendation for making your imports cleaner is to have a common file for the most used imports, like material, localization, or your custom widgets library. But this is completely up to you. Now, whenever you import material, you just select the command.dart and have access to all the localizations immediately. Okay, now we know how to use translations in our app, but how do we actually edit ARB files? Doing it manually is not a perfect experience and you need to know the syntax. Here I have several recommendations. Over the past 2 years, many translation services added support for ARB files. Usually it's enough to support basic features of the ARB format. If you don't want to pay for the service, I recommend a self-hosted solution called RBFi. In order to use RBFi, you need to have a Docker installed, but everything is described in the README of the tool. If you have an open source project or you are able to pay a monthly subscription, I recommend Localizely platform. It has first-class support for Flutter and a pretty great extension to support you in managing your translation files. Most other commercial solutions like Poe Editor, Crowdin, and others also support ARB files, and sometimes you can use it for free for your personal projects. If you want to learn more about ARB files and its syntax, check out the document listed below. Also, please visit my blog and my blog post to learn more about translations in Flutter. Thanks a lot for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.